Is there any way that Gautam Gambhir, the coach, can be defended for his selections?
Since Gautam Gambhir has become the Indian team coach, there's always a conversation about certain players being dropped and selected without any merit. And since the start of the ODI series in Australia and the announcement of the India A squad that's going to play 4-day matches against South Africa, there have been conversations for why certain players are not part of the playing 11, and in fact, why certain players are not even part of the entire squad to begin with. Before we get into all of this and talk about 3 players in particular, hit that subscribe button, and here's a promo from our membership.
What I was specifically brought in to do was ball tracking data. That's why your technical analysis is so good, because I watch your channel for that, and it's always like a learning experience. The rest of it was my own data from various sources which I can't reveal, but I had like multiple databases that I then sort of allied with the ball tracking data.
But the question from there is, how does he start? Like, what is his process like?
That time the focus was on the World Cup, right? September, I wrote code like a dog. I took the Indian bowlers, I took the components of their ball speed, release speed, and I made it interact with the pitch to keep getting selected. With Harshad, I can tell you.
The first name, and one that's been doing a lot of rounds in domestic cricket, not only now but also for the longest period of time, has been Sarfaraz Khan. Before we even get to what the current situation is, it's important to understand what Sarfaraz Khan's career progression has looked like and why he is in the conversation for an Indian spot in the Test squad. Now, before Sarfaraz Khan made his Test debut, he was making a lot of name in the Ranji Trophy and also just the domestic cricket setup, where in 66 innings he averaged almost 70. In this period, his conversion rate was also brilliant with 1400s and 1150s, and in fact, since 2020, no other first-class player in the world had been able to score at least 2000 or more runs. And not only the volume of runs, but the average at which he scored this, an average of 86, was also unheard of during this period. And so from there, just before the start of the 2024 India vs England Test series, Sarfaraz Khan was a part of the India A squad that was playing the England Lions. Here in 3 innings, he scored 220 runs with an average of 73, but also a strike rate of 93 in the red ball format, and he had 100 and 150. Owing to this performance, Sarfaraz eventually did get a call-up on the back of a couple of injuries to KL Rahul as well as Shubman Gill. The added absence of Virat Kohli also meant that the lineup was completely open, and so it made sense for a well-performing Sarfaraz to finally get his Test cap. And with all of the expectation that was built up, Sarfaraz Khan also lived up to his name and all of this expectation. Because in the debut Test match that he played for India, he scored 62 in the first innings and a 68 not out in the second innings. Although he did fail in the next innings that he played in the next Test match, the 5th and final Test match of the series saw him get a 50 once again. And so this was a beautiful start to the career of Sarfaraz Khan, who had proved his worth in the Indian domestic setup, because in the India vs England series, in the 3 matches that he played, he scored 200 runs at an average of 50 and had 3 50s to show in 4 innings.
Now, after the England series, there was a bit of a gap until the next Test series. And by that time, we had Gautam Gambhir, the coach, an entirely new Indian management, and we had the likes of Virat Kohli, KL Rahul, Rishabh Pant make it back into the Test squad. And because of that, in the next Test series, which was against Bangladesh, Sarfaraz Khan not only did not find a place in the 11, Gautam Gambhir also spoke about how he needs to fight his way back into that playing 11. Now, luckily for Sarfaraz Khan, Shubman Gill gets injured in the first match in the series against New Zealand, because of which he gets a place in the playing 11. It wasn't the most happening start for Sarfaraz Khan's comeback, because in the first innings he got out for a duck, but in the second innings is where he stood out. He scored 150 or 195, getting his maiden 100 in just his 4th Test match. But unfortunately for him, that 150 runs was the only time he crossed 50 plus in that entire Test series, because in the 6 innings that he batted, he only averaged 28.5. But does this warrant him from being dropped from the 15? Absolutely not, which is also why he was part of the BGT going down under in Australia. Now, after the Border Gavaskar Trophy, we saw the Indian team fly to England, and Sarfaraz Khan's name was omitted from the squad itself, which was a shocker to many. But what was more surprising is the fact that his name in the India A squad going to play England Lions before the Test series has started almost felt like an afterthought. But again, Sarfaraz Khan came out all guns blazing, because in the 1 innings that he got to play against the England Lions in England, he scored 92 runs. Time and again, we call it unfortunate, because in the second practice game, Sarfaraz Khan was dropped despite those 92 runs in the first practice game, because a lot of Test regulars were part of the second practice game. 2025 as of now hasn't been the most pleasant for Sarfaraz Khan, because he missed the Dilip Trophy, Irani Cup, and even the India A vs Australia A practice games because of an injury. And then we saw his return in the first match of the Ranji Trophy, where Mumbai took on Jammu and Kashmir. In the first innings, he scored 42, but more crucially, in the second innings, he scored 32 runs, which was the second highest score in that innings. Those 32 runs proved very, very crucial for Mumbai to go on and win the game.
Now, through this period, there were also a lot of reports of Sarfaraz Khan having worked on his fitness, and it was also evident for everyone to see. And this is where we come to the present day. Because in the current India A versus South Africa A squad, we find that Sarfaraz Khan has not even been able to find a place for himself in that India A lineup. Now, of course, there's also speculation that during the Border Gavaskar Trophy, there was a dressing room leak, and supposedly it was Sarfaraz Khan who was responsible for this situation, and because of this, he finds himself not in any of these squads. And logically speaking, this can be the only reason that we can think of as to why Sarfaraz Khan is not a part of the squad. Because if you look at his performances, he's still been able to do well for the India A setup. He's also got a century for India. He's got multiple 50s, and all in all, he's got a decent start to his test career and has a space in that middle order. Considering all of this and his improved fitness as well, you would think that Sarfaraz has not set a foot wrong to be able to play for at least the India A setup. Also note that he is still a contracted player. And we would be doing a disservice to the Ranji Trophy setup if we didn't look at Sarfaraz Khan's first class averages that by far are some of the best and highest that we've ever seen in the history of Indian cricket.
And this is why we move on to another player who's been making headlines and been having conversations within the media and not directly to the selectors, because it doesn't seem like the head selector Agarkar and Mohammed Shami are talking to each other at least. Now, it's very interesting when you look at Mohammed Shami's timeline from the time he was injured after the World Cup final of 2023 until his comeback in the Champions Trophy and then the IPL to never play for India again. Now, after the World Cup final, he was out for 14 months from international cricket. He did play a couple of Ranji games, Vijay Hazare and Syed Mushtaq Ali, to prove his fitness. And then he was back to play a couple of ODIs and T20s before the Champions Trophy against England, after which he was part of the India squad to play the Champions Trophy. Now, he was decent enough where he was the second highest wicket taker, taking 9 wickets in 5 matches with an economy of 5.6, but more importantly bowling 41 overs, because all this while the conversation has been about Mohammed Shami's fitness, so we will emphasize on the load and the amount of overs he has bowled. And then there was the IPL where in 9 matches he picked up just 6 wickets with an economy of 9.2. Not the most impressive numbers, but again, coming back to the overs, he bowled 30 overs in that tournament. Truth be told, looking at the Champions Trophy and the IPL and his performances, Mohammed Shami at that point didn't look 100% fit, which is also why when India toured England, he wasn't even part of the India A squad. But fortunately for Mohammed Shami, he found his way into one game in the Dilip Trophy, where again he found himself to be a bit lackluster, because in the 34 overs he bowled in that game, he only picked up 1 wicket. Now, with Mohammed Shami's reputation and how he does in multi-nation tournaments, a lot of people expected him to make it to that Asia Cup squad, but again his name was missing from there too. Not only was he missing from the Asia Cup squad, he was also missing from the test side that played West Indies for 2 matches. That being said, a lot of people expected him to automatically make it into one of the squads to play Australia in Australia, either in the ODI format or the T20 format. But like the story goes, his name is missing from there too. And this is where the back and forth between Agarkar and Shami had begun. And unfortunately for Indian fans, it was never directly with each other. It was always Shami addressing the media and Agarkar addressing the media too, which should be concerning because Agarkar is the head selector and Shami is one of the best fast bowler India has ever produced. But Shami until this point is doing everything right, because he's back playing the Ranji Trophy and was part of the first match that Bengal played, where he bowled close to 40 overs, picking up 7 wickets and was the highest wicket taker in that match. And because of this performance, a lot of people had hopes. He should have been a part of the India A squad playing South Africa in those practice games before the home test series. And that being said, he doesn't find a place in the squad once again. Now, if you were to look at it from Gautam Gambhir's perspective, one of the only reasons why Mohammed Shami wouldn't be selected is because of his age. He's 35 years of age, and the fact that he had the biggest and the longest break from cricket means that they might just want to look at other options.
And this is where we come back to the present day, the India versus Australia ODI series, and we talk about one player who at least is not finding himself outside the squads but is barely getting any games of cricket. Of course, I'm talking about Kuldeep Yadav and how he's been struggling to get games for the Indian team. If earlier it was in the test format, and with him finally getting chances in the home season, he once again in this Australia ODI series finds himself outside the playing 11. Now, why this is a point of conversation is not only because of the fact that Gautam Gambhir wants to push a lot of all-rounders into these squads, but also because Kuldeep Yadav is one of India's best wicket takers in the past couple of years, and you want him playing as many games as possible. Since his ODI debut, Kuldeep Yadav has been a beast in this format and also the highest wicket taker across the world, because in 113 matches he's taken 181 wickets at a very good bowling average of 26 and a brilliant strike rate of just 31. He also has an economy rate of 4.9, which is brilliant by today's ODI standards, and he has 7 4-fers and 2 5-fers to go with this. wickets. Of course, the last set of ODIs that he played was in the Champions Trophy 2025, where in 5 matches he picked up 7 wickets, did not necessarily look at his best wicket-taking ability, but he still had an economy rate of 4.7, which once again stands out. And this is where a lot of people might raise a question on his credentials in Sena countries, especially in Australia. Now, of course, the conditions in Australia are more conducive to fast bowlers and the ball does bounce a lot and it also nips around a little bit, but this is all the more reason to play your best spinner in the squad, because if your all-round spin bowlers are not able to get the job done, especially when the pitch does not provide much, Kuldeep Yadav is very likely to step it up. In fact, a case in point for this very example is Adam Zampa in the second ODI, where he picked up 4 for 60 of his 10 overs and clearly showed that a spin bowling option, especially someone who's a good wrist spinner, is always going to be beneficial to a squad irrespective of the conditions. And this is where we come to Kuldeep Yadav's record in Sena countries, because this too is fairly impressive. In the 21 matches that he's played, he's picked up 36 wickets. He's done this at an average of 26.3, a strike rate of 31.4, once again brilliant numbers and the same as his career strike rate and average, but he's also gone at an economy of 5 and picked up 2 4-fers and 1 5-fer. So when you look at this, by no means can you say that Kuldeep Yadav has struggled in Sena countries. If anything, he's done equally well as his career record. And if you look at the current Australian squad, there's also quite a few number of left-handed batters, and these are the kinds of batters that Kuldeep thrives really well against, because if you look at his record versus right-handers and left-handers, he's clearly got better averages against the left-handed batters. With an average of 23.7 versus them as opposed to 28.3 versus the right-hand batters, you can see that Kuldeep is a handful when it comes to bowling against the lefties. Kuldeep is also someone you can rely on to continuously break partnerships in the middle overs, because 49% of the wickets he's gotten is of batters batting in the positions of 3 to 6. Kuldeep also is someone who can absolutely control the middle overs. One factor is, of course, his experience, and if you look at it as compared to the rest of the bowling lineup that we have in the ODI series, you can see that Kuldeep is someone that would be reliant, especially because of how many games of cricket he's played. But even beyond this, if you look at his middle over numbers, you'll see why he's rated so highly. In the 109 innings where he's bowled in the middle overs, Kuldeep has picked up 145 wickets, and he's done this at a very good economy of 4.8. In the death as well, he's been one of the standout bowlers for India, and it's almost unsuspecting when you think about it, because he's only bowled about 100 overs in the death, but has still picked up 33 wickets and done this at a very good economy of just 6. Now, there are a couple of arguments for why Kuldeep might not be finding himself in the 11. Of course, we know that Gautam Gambhir has a favoritism towards playing certain all-rounders because he wants a longer batting lineup as well as a bowling lineup. And given Kuldeep has very limited ability with the bat, it makes sense as to why Washington Sundar and Akshar Patel might be looked at as opposed to Kuldeep Yadav. But you cannot discount the fact that Kuldeep has definitely improved his batting ability, and he might not be as good as an Akshar Patel or a Washington Sundar, but he can definitely hang around. A more compelling argument as to why Kuldeep might not be finding his place in the ODI 11 is because of his numbers since July 2018. Because since this period in Sena countries, Kuldeep has not been able to pick 2 or more wickets in any of the matches that he's played since then. In fact, in the 13 games since, he's only picked up 10 wickets, and he's also done this at a horrible strike rate as well as average. He's averaged 62, stuck at 70, and he's also been a little expensive, going at an economy of 5.2. Of course, as an absolute value, this is still a fairly decent economy rate, but given how Kuldeep operates and how he's always had an economy of around 4.7 to 4.8, he would be a little disappointed with this. That being said, Kuldeep is someone who's constantly been improving his game over the last couple of seasons, and not only that, because of the fact that he's finally getting to play test matches, there's every chance that he's only going to get better and better in the ODI format. It's a little baffling to see Kuldeep outside the squad, especially because India has a very inexperienced bowling lineup. You would want at least your best wicket taker and one of your most experienced bowlers to be a part of that 11.
Now, this has been a video on Gautam Gambhir and Agarkar and the certain selections of players, not just in the squad but also in the playing 11. Thank you so much for watching. Like, share and subscribe, all that good stuff. If you have anything to say, please put that down in the comments below. Follow us on our socials if you haven't already. Thank you so much for watching. Peace.